Alrighty, good morning, everybody. I know this is probably one of our earliest, although we probably have done a foreign one that ended up a little bit earlier than this, but we had to do this while we could. Our guest is going to be out of town and unreachable for a bit, so hopped on this opportunity while we could because he has an amazing personal history himself, but he was also serving with um, I think it would be safe to say the cream of the crop of the CCS Recon men and the 1-0s and just all of the NCOs on the Recon teams and officers that were running Recon down there down south. And we've not heard a lot about the guys down south. There's not many books about it, or not many guys have been on podcasts except for RJ over with Tilt onto the Sogcast. So Mr. Mike Ash, Lieutenant Mike Ash, is going to be sharing some history, talking about some of these guys that he was lucky enough to serve with. And he himself was a RT Auger 1-0, and he also ended up down at Camp Long Thanh, B-53, better known as 1-0 school, as a training officer, if I remember correctly. So he was down there with a lot of the big name instructors from all of the CNCs. So without further ado, we are going to get into it. Mr. Mike, I hope you're doing well today.
I'm doing great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, bud.
Yes, sir.
I want to say to start with here that I've really appreciated the work at Bud and guys like Jason Collins, Jason Hardy, guys outside the military have done to keep things going. And and they tell the true stuff. That's what I like about it.
Absolutely. I tell you the truth, I followed both of the Jason's leads. Jason's got the books and the histories covered, and then Jason Collins has got the interviews and the books as well. And I figured the more the merrier. And while we can get all of you guys to share the history while you're with us, why not jump in the game? And those two guys are absolutely wonderful and a lot of help. So, guys, we are going to get into it. I know some of y'all might be on the way to work and might not be able to type in and all of that. So if you can, type in questions. If not, type them in when you get a chance and I'll get them answered. But we're going to go ahead and get into a little bit of Mr. Mike's personal history and him getting to SOG and to CCS, and then he's going to start expanding on overall CCS history for us and really getting into the nitty gritty, so to speak. So, Mr. Mike, would you? I don't know if you'd like to tell us where you were born and raised.
Yeah, I'll get that. Let me start with this could be kind of boring with just me compared to, I know that Bud's got Troy Gilly and Jim Day, two of my buddies, on next week, and because of my travel schedule, I couldn't be there, but I need to be there to make sure that they keep me straight. But I'm by myself, and I want you to know, guys, that I'm going to talk about CCS and what I know about MACV-SOG and some of the guys there. But I just walk with some legends. I mean, just some legends, and I learned a lot from them. And my activity just doesn't even hold a candle to what some of these guys did. But I'm one of the last ones standing. I got a little bit of memory, so we'll try to help you with that. So I grew up in Susanville, California, and I came from a military family. My dad and 5 of his brothers served in World War II at the same time. So for me, it wasn't much of a thought process. I knew I was going to go in. That's just part of my family history. And we was about 4 of us used to hang out together all the way from kindergarten through high school. And one day we were all out doing something, and Ted Stanfley says, "Guys, I'm leaving in the morning." And we said, "What do you mean you're leaving?" He says, "I'm going in the Army." And we were just devastated because we'd go, we would all done everything together. And he said, "I don't want to put any pressure on you. It's my own decision." Well, he made it to Vietnam, and a little over a month later, he was killed on February 27th, 1968. And the other three of us went over to his house, to his mom's house, and spent the night talking and telling stories, looking at pictures with his mom and his sister. And the next morning, we jumped in my car and said, let's go get those SOBs. And we showed up at the draft board before it was even open, and watched them open the door, went in and said, take us. And they did. And 11 days later, we were standing at Fort Lewis, Washington. I end up, they recommended I become a helicopter pilot or an officer. And I didn't want to come home in a box as fast as the chopper pilots were coming home. I ended up going to officer candidate school, and little bit of story here. I had quite a I had quite a record. There's nothing dishonest, but a lot of stuff illegal, if you know what I mean. And so I applied for artillery officer candidate school, and they told me I was of poor moral character because of that record. And a couple of weeks later, they called me back in and said, we want to re-interview you. You'll make a fine infantry officer. Okay, so I guess that has to do with the moral character. But anyway, I went through officer candidate school, and out my barracks window, they had down at Fort Benning, Georgia. Out my barracks window, there was a 250-foot jump tower. They got I think they had like 4 of them there on the field then. And I knew what I wanted to do. I was going airborne, so I did. Toward the end of the officer candidate school, I signed up for airborne, and there's a guy next door in the desk, and I just seen one of them. I don't remember whether that Green Beret song came out of the movie, but a couple of us said we're going to do that, and I ended up going through SF training with the likes of Steve Sparling, who was also at CCS. Let me see. So, going through SFOC, that's Special Forces Officers Course, they put a couple captains in there to keep us butterbar lieutenants straight, teach us a few lessons, kick our rear end once in a while. And one of them was Gary Robb. And Gary'd been to Vietnam, and I don't remember what unit he'd been with, but he got a little bit of time with CCN, and they sent him back to the States to go through SFOC. Well, Gary and I got, we escaped capture from the 82nd Airborne during our last field exercise. Let me tell you, the 82nd, they did not like the SF guys. There was a lot of competition, and they just about killed them. I mean, the torture they put them through was unreal, and we'd heard about that. And anyway, I won't tell you the whole story there, but Gary and I were the two out of that. You navigate. All you got's a knife, a little bit of a map, and a compass, and that's it. And you're out. I think we had about a 10 or 12-day exercise, and you navigate to a certain spot, and then you go through some tests, like maybe disassembling and assembling a M60, a Car 15, whatever. And then they link you up with somebody else. Well, after about 8 days or so, then you're supposed to have a whole A team. And we had the whole A team. And like I say, we got captured, but Gary and I escaped. And we spent a couple days together in the brush hiding out from the 82nd. And Gary told me, man, there's a special unit over there in Vietnam. When you get there, he said, you need to be looking into it. And that's how I got into SOG, okay?
Wow.
And I end up at CCS. Now, I don't know how much you all know about MACV-SOG, but MACV-SOG worked for the CIA. It was the CIA over there. And there was CCN was up north out of Da Nang, and in their area of operation, AO was part of North Vietnam, the northern part of Laos, and then CCC was down at Kon Tum. They had Laos and a little bit of Cambodia, if I remember right. CCS had the southern part of Cambodia, the Fishhook, Parrot's Beak. That's where the NVA headquarters for South Vietnamese activities was. But anyway, we had a 25-year non-disclosure agreement, and you hear about those these days. And we had one, and it was threatened with prison, and we had that hanging over ourselves for a long time. So let's see, I had here, first day I showed up to camp with Steve Sparling at CCS Bambi Tuet. Now, Bambi Tuet was where our training and our bunk took place. We had launch sites that were right along the border. There's Steve. It's both those guys on my. I'm on the right. Phil Arnold's on the far left. Steve's in the middle, and both those guys ended up getting assignments in finance. They were pushing some of that SF money around, and I ended up in Recon. Anyway, first day we showed up, Steve and I at Bambi Tuet, the flags were at half-mast, and I think that was October 9th, I think, of 69. And what had happened was the southern launch site out of Quanloy, this Captain Carr and I think it was Carr and SFC Miller and the chopper crew got shot down while they were given a briefing to the incoming officer and NCO, and so there was those were our guys, and that was our introduction. The colonel said, "Well," he said, "you guys go over to the club and come back in the morning. We'll get you an assignment. But I got a finance job, taking care of the money. That was a job that Troy Gilly had, and then I got a recon job, and." So he says, "We'll talk to you in the morning." Well, we go over to the club, and of course we're the newbies, and not only we're the newbies, but we're the butter bar lieutenants or second lieutenants. I mean, just as green and fresh and naive as you can get. And man, them guys were filling us with stories like you wouldn't believe. My knees were shaking all night long, you know. But so we get in the morning, and the colonel says, "Well," he says, I got this finance job pushing this money around, and I said, "Man, I can balance a checkbook like you can't believe." And Steve Sparling says, "Well, I got a bachelor's in business management." You know? So I end up down at Recon, which is good. That's where I want to be anyway. But we had 3 platoons down there in Recon, and the whole camp was there to support Recon. That was the mission, and I don't know the numbers here, but we had 3 Recon platoons. There was a platoon of the Chinese Nungs. Some of them had been with the NVA before, been up in North Vietnam, came down. Then we had a Montagnard platoon, and then we had a Vietnamese platoon because they were starting that Vietnamization program. They wanted the Vietnamese to have their own teams. Troy Gilly was, I forget which was number 1 and number 2, but Troy came down there about 3 weeks after I got in because he was turning the money job over to Sparling. And anyway, Troy ended up as a platoon leader for the Montagnards. The Montagnards, and I was a platoon leader for there's Troy. I was a platoon leader for the Chinese teams, and you didn't mix teams up because they got different cultures, they got different languages, and each platoon had, I don't know, 6 to 10 teams, but they weren't all functional because we didn't have the personnel sometimes, and usually it was Americans, right? Guys get injured, they go on leave, and they go back home, so we might have had 5 or 6 at the same time in each platoon, maybe, that were fully operational, ready to go. Okay, Vietnamese teams, a little bit of an issue there that with leadership, and I'm not going to tell you the name. I'm not going to share names, I think, but he had another lieutenant come in to take over the Vietnamese platoon, and we couldn't believe. We knew him. We'd known him from before. We couldn't believe that he was there, and he ended up. They couldn't put him on a mission, but they put him up on a radio relay with the team, and they walked off the mountain and said, "We're not serving with that guy." And
whoa!
So we kind of policed our own, and yeah, he didn't last too long. Yeah. So let me see, where can I go from there? So, what's it like to be a brand new butter bar lieutenant? Because you spent about a year or so as a brand new butter bar till you get first lieutenant, and we were with some pretty steely-eyed, hardcore, and I'm just going to say, well, they're just warriors. They're just warriors. You know, the likes of RJ, Frank Opal, Mike Crimmins, Bob Bechtel, Barron, DeCarlo, Jim Day. I mean, these guys were steely-eyed. They'd have the experience, and a lot of them have had multiple tours over there already. So, best thing that I found out was just to shut up and listen, and earn respect. Officers weren't allowed to run recon when Troy and I were there. Captain Spory, don't say that. I like that guy a whole bunch. He was our company commander, but and he was a West Point grad. He'd had a lot of experience in the military. He'd been with the 173rd before. This probably his second or third tour there, but he felt that the officers need to be in camp and doing administrative kind of things and help getting the teams ready, etc. And one day, Colonel Lindsay showed up, and he come down there to check on everybody, and he asked Troy and I, he said, "How come you guys aren't running recon?" And we said, "Well, Steve, Captain Spory won't let us." And he looked him in the eye, and there's some pretty good stories about that. But in the end, he said, "You get these guys out on the ground. We need team leaders. We don't have enough as it is." And so Troy and I went down to 10 school for our 3-week training down here. And I guess I'll talk about that a little bit later. But some of the guys started picking us up as what they call strap hangers. And strap hanger is one of two things. It's either somebody to fill a slot that's empty that's needed on a mission, or they're going to take somebody out and help them learn the ropes, right? So my first and what happened was I know this to be true. When you get done with the mission, then usually the company commander will call the team leader in and say, how'd this guy do? Is he a doofus or shall we keep him around, kind of a thing, right? And anyway, so the first mission I got on was with Frank Opal, and we called him Dirty Frank or Nasty Frank. Frank had a whole bunch of worldly experience. He'd worked for Air America, doing some pretty heavy stuff for the CIA, Air America, right? And he'd spent some time with the Navy, if I remember right. He ended up in CCS, but he had a Chinese team, all, and I know there's a couple of stories about that. But my first mission, we were launching out of Duco, or maybe it's Bandon, and I was nervous as all get out. I mean, my first mission, and remember I told you they tried to scare the crap out of us down there at the club. Well, I trained with them and all that stuff, and then we're sitting on the launch site waiting to go in, because the launch sites were A camps right along the border, and then we'd launch into Cambodia, 20 or 30 clicks. That's a kilometer, right? Click is a kilometer, and we're waiting for a weather break or something, and here I am for a couple hours, and all they're doing is filling me full of these scary stories, and my knees were knocking and whatnot. And so they said, well, here's the deal. When we get up, they come in there about 3,000 feet, and there's usually a bird dog, 01 bird dog, which is a little Cessna overhead, and he's guiding the chopper into the insertion zone. And they said when the chopper gets down on treetop level, because they come off of 3,000 and down there to the treetop, and they're guiding them in. And these guys are like riding a roller coaster, right? I mean, they're just about clipping the tops of the trees as they're going. He said, "You get out I was on the right side of the chopper. He said, "You get out on the right side of the chopper on the skids, just before we're gonna hit an LZ." And I'm going, "You're kidding me." No, that's what. Then I knew they were kidding me. So I said, "I'll tell you what. When Frank gets out on the other side, I'll get out on this side." So here we are, and I got butterflies coming up my ears and my nose, and all of a sudden, Mike Crimmins, the troll, taps me on the shoulder, and I look over, and there's old Dirty Frank on the other side hanging out, and he used to carry a Thompson, right, 45 caliber Thompson. That's what he liked to carry. He's hanging out the side of the chopper on the left side. Oh my God, I can't believe this is going on. So I got out there just like my duty, and the chopper flares up, and he's starting to come into this little bitty hole in the trees. And I don't know when to give this story away, but all of a sudden I'm starting to hear gunshots coming right by my ear, and so, man, I'm unloading half of my magazine out there protecting the chopper pilots, right? And I look in, and the co-pilot's looking down at me, and I'm telling him, give him the thumbs up, we got to get out of here. And he's shook his head and is going, "No, we're going in." And so they all of a sudden I hear this shots going off on my ear again, and so I empty the rest of my magazine, and the last 3 rounds were tracers. That's the way I loaded. That way I knew I needed to reload. Well, I had 2 magazines taped side by side. This 4 had 30 rounds. These are 20 rounders, and so now I don't have a hold. I'm just standing on the skids, and I'm just starting to put that magazine in, and the pilot radios on the intercom there back to the door gunner. He said, "Get that 80 in here." Because the chopper blades were hitting the vegetation, and it sounded like shots going off to me, right? So he reaches forward to get me, and he's reaching hard, and he slapped me on the back. And the combination of, I thought I got hit and knocked me off the balance, and I fell about 25, 30 feet, literally, and down through the brush and landed on my back. And I thought my whole back was shot off. It knocked the wind out of me. And I don't have a mag in my car, and I'm laying there, and the chopper flies off, and oh my gosh. So I'm trying to figure out what piece of my body I still have, and I'm laying down there trying to feel around, trying to get my breath, and then I hear movement coming after me, and oh my God, they're coming after me. About that time, I hear Mike, and it was Dirty Frank and Mike Crimmins come back there to get me. And what's wrong? I said, "Oh, I'm hit. And they said, "Well, where?" Anyway, they end up put me over their back, brought me, I don't know, 100 yards or so back to the chopper that landed, and they took me back to Bandon. Medics checked me out. We went back in that afternoon, but for a while there, I got called Lieutenant Fuzz, right? So anyway, if you remember Beetle Bailey, anyway, so it must have gone okay with the colonel or the company commander, because when he went back in, I was maybe not doofus, but I was Lieutenant Fuzz, and I got invited on a bunch more. But anyway, I did some strap hanging with Opal, maybe, I don't know, maybe four of them, maybe, and then a couple 3 with RJ. And then I got my own team, Auger, and Auger has pretty storied history. I guess probably a Jim Bolin.
Oh, yeah.
And there's quite a write up on Jim Bolin in one of Jason Hardy's books.
Mhm.
Jim did a good job. He got a lot of photos and shows what some of the teams did. The two guys in those books that Jason Hardy's got, what he did was he had these books and he interviews, or doesn't interview, he does a little history on 4 or 5 recon teams. And Jim Bolin did a really good job. Yeah, that's me. That's the tail end of it. But anyway, Jim did a really good job of documenting stuff that recon teams did. And then RJ Graham was with Pick, okay, RT Pick, which was a yard team. And he did a real good job also. So those are two of the books that I keep on my shelf.
You had mentioned the various ethnic groups and the teams.
Yeah.
Didn't you say Mr. Frank was running at that time? Was he running a Nung team?
No, yeah, Nung, Chinese Nung team.
Okay.
And they had a really good team. They were good. They're all good in the field, or those team leaders wouldn't have them. Okay, they operate just a little bit different. They got different cultures, but yeah, Frank had a Chinese team, and like I said, I think I ran 4 missions with them. I knew those guys like my brother, and yeah, old guy named Fook. Fook was mute. He didn't talk. I never heard a word come out of his mouth. Of course, you couldn't communicate anyway because you got language barriers most often, right? They knew things like payday and time to eat and stuff like that, you know. But Fook was an M79 guy, unbelievable. He was really good, man. He could lay a round down, and he worked with me on the M79 stuff. I carried M79 a couple times for on the missions, and but anyway, M79s are weird because it isn't just a straight shot. I remember the first time I went out, I knew this, but when you get in combat, you're trying to point the barrel at the target, and they make a pretty good arc, right? They go up in the air before they come back down, and so it's not just straight line shooting like you got with a Car 15 or something. But anyway, M79s are an awesome weapon, but it's a one shot at a time. And of course, you can do HE, you know, which is high explosive, by like throwing a small grenade out there. You got white phosphorus, which makes things real ugly on the other end of the shot. You got buckshot, and then you got smoke, and then they had CS as well. So you get in a firefight, and I don't know. I think RJ might have designed that M79 vest. I wore that a few times. I think that's right. But you got to be careful. You know where your rounds are. I mean, you get in a lot of excitement, and yeah, that's that vest right there. You get in a lot of excitement, and you're just reaching for a shell, and you get the wrong kind of shell in there, and it doesn't sometimes play out real well. So that was and you got one shot at a time. It's like a single shot shotgun. It's a break action, right? They came out with different. Oh, they had I don't know what they called it. Maybe it was a 203 or something, but they had a slide action, and I think it held 2 or 3 rounds in there, like a pump shotgun that clamped onto the bottom of your car. But that just made that thing too heavy and awkward for me. A lot of guys, RJ included, had a cut off M79. He took the full thing and he basically cut it off at the pistol grip and whacked the barrel off, and they work pretty good. They carried them like a sidearm. Okay, anyway, that's that about that.
Wow, very interesting. Did you when you ended up getting your own team? And was Auger a Montagnard team?
Yeah, Auger was a yard team, and it's pretty much the same guys on that team that all the way back from Boylan and Bolin. I mean, and the one I remember the most was Mong Tien. Mong Tien was a little short. I don't know if he even broke 5 feet. Uh, he had a gold tooth in the front. Just the guy had an uncanny knack for knowing what was ahead, and if he turned around, and usually the point man is five, or I don't let him get out there too far. I didn't anyway, but usually 5 yards ahead of me. And if he turned around and smiled and you saw that gold tooth, you knew there was something exciting about ready to happen. And Mong Tien loved to, yeah, he loved to pull the trigger. It was a good guy. And yeah, someday somebody's going to write a book about what happened to the yards, because that was just ugly. There was about 60 different tribes in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. They didn't have borders, and they lived in villages. They were pretty primitive people. We promised you come fight for us, we'll take care of you. And when we exited Vietnam, we didn't treat them very well. That's embarrassing. It's a sad part of that war.
Very, very, very sad. And they do have the large community in, or not large, but a decent sized community that y'all helped set up in North Carolina.
Yeah, there was some of those guys. Ben Lyons. I don't.
Oh yes.
Ben's not with us anymore, but Ben was. I think they call it Stamp, and I think it saved the
Yard
Montagnard.
people.
Yeah, Montagnard people, and you're right. The guys helped get them over here, and they have a community they're in. They're just really really good people. I know. I think Jim Day had some workings there. Anyway, you're going to ask Jim Day and Troy some of those questions. Those are two guys with the best memory in CCS that I know of.
Oh, absolutely.
But I wouldn't believe anything they say about me. That's the only
um, I know as because I think 1-0 school is coming up. Did you because folks are mega curious about the infamous bow and arrow mission? Was that while you were strap hanging, or was that before you went to 1-0?
That's one of my last strap hanging missions.
Wow.
So I told you I've been a strap hanger with both Frank, Opal, and RJ before, and sometimes you put together a team that's got your buddies on it. You just got and RJ got this prisoner snatch mission. We'd had some unsuccessful attempts in various. Well, RJ had actually snatched somebody earlier with what's his name, Paul.
Dave Paul.
Yeah, Dave Paul. They come in with a POW, and the guy ended up being a cook. Of course, you can read about that from. But so they went on another prisoner snatch mission, and there were the 5 Americans on that we talked about earlier. We didn't really get a chance to set up and do prisoner snatch, but so RJ shot a bow earlier and thought he was Robin Hood, I think, but so he had his bow shipped over, and it was all instinct shooting. He was pretty good. He could knock a pie plate down out there, 20, 30 yards, and so the idea was we were gonna. That's as silent as you can get, right? And we put an arrow in somebody's rear end, and the other guys run up and grab him. Well, we didn't get that chance before we got compromised, and there's a whole issue about we were being found out before we were ready, but we were trying to evade, and we end up. There was a bunch of bomb craters over there because we've been dropping bombs and stuff, and so I don't know what, there must have been about eight of us all together, maybe 9 with the yards, because we were in RJ's team. But we piled in this bomb crater, and we were trying to hold our own till the choppers got there, and we were running a little bit low on ammo, and we were passing ammo around a little bit, and RJ, and they'd actually threw a concussion grenade in that stupid bomb crater, but RJ had enough, and there was some pretty good fire going on, and the birds weren't there yet. We knew they were going to be there pretty quick. We thought they were, and RJ just stands up with a bow with an arrow knocked up, and just starts screaming, and there was probably some 4-letter words coming out of his mouth, but he started flinging a couple arrows, and I'm not kidding, that the shooting stopped. Okay, now I would argue with RJ a little bit about, part of it might have been they heard the Hueys coming now, right? Because what they do is, the minute you can hear that whop, whop, whop coming, and after you've been there a while, you know how long it's going to be till they're overhead. And but yeah, they stopped firing, and the choppers got there, and there's RJ. He's got that's that cut off M79 I told you, okay, and he's wearing that M79 vest too, along with his pith helmet. But anyway, so we got slung out of there on Stabos, and that's that story. So it made a good story in the bar, in the club for a while, right?
Did y'all ever? I don't know how many times. I imagine clearly with that famous photo over your right shoulder there. Were you were you drug out, or were you pulled out on strings a lot with the Stabos?
Yeah. Here, so it started getting kind of dicey down at MACV-SOG headquarters in Saigon. You know, they were putting our missions together. This is what we want you to do, and whether there's going to be a prisoner stats, maybe it's just a trail watch, maybe you're going to do a wiretap, you know, maybe you're going to, well, there's some stuff going on you can read about, I guess, where they were spicing up cache sites, putting in rounds.
Eldest son, yeah.
The eldest son that blew the bolt out instead of through your head rather than anyway, we had always been going in mostly, into small holes in the trees, an LZ. Well, it started where every time we went in, they were waiting for us. They knew when and where we were coming, because we just had moles going down there in Saigon. So some of the stuff we started doing was they were saying, here's your insert location. And we already knew we didn't want to go there because there's a pretty good chance it was compromised. So we'd go up the night before on an air recon, looking over our AO, and maybe pick out a different spot. And some of those started being rappel-in spots, right? Because there's only so many holes in the trees, and we're in their backyard, right? The NVA's backyard. There's only so many holes in the trees you can go into. So they'd have LZ watchers. We started doing some rappelling. We started dropping a ladder. They had a wire rope ladder. I don't remember how they might have been. I don't know. Maybe they're 30 feet. I don't know. But yeah. So and then coming out, the same thing. If you try to find the LZ to come out of a hole in the trees, there's probably going to be somebody there waiting for you, right? And anyway, so a lot of those were strings, and the strings are so above me there's a canvas panel, and that rope's probably 120, 100 and so feet long, and they weave it back and forth in that panel, and then it's got a spreader, which was basically a piece of 3/4 inch iron pipe, and then they roll that up. All that's up sitting on the deck of the chopper, and when they come in there to get you, the door gunner kicks off those those stable rigs, they call it, and the weight of that pipe carries it down through the ground. And then we had a stable rig, we called it. It was just a harness that we wore all the time. And when you're ready to come out, you just undo that harness in the back and bring it through your crotch and snap it into a link. Somebody did a good job designing that, because you come out, you got room to fire, and you can defend yourself as you're coming out, right? You can, if somebody's wounded or somebody's KIA, you can still drag them out there, and so that's a stable rig.
So you'd say with capability, comfortability, both hands being free, that was probably the best extract method that SOG ever fielded for you guys?
Well, for us, it is. Of course, I'd like one where there's no shooting going on and it's got a cold beer next to me, but that's the best one they could come up with for us. They run through a series of a McGuire rig, and I never rode a McGuire rig, so I don't know. I know they didn't have the security of holding you in, and the stories about guys falling out of them or almost falling out of them. But the stable was the one that I like best.
Mm-hmm. And in our notes here, as we're going a bit, you had mentioned, and I think it might be good to kind of cover it a bit before we get into some of your 1-0 school stuff or Mr. Everett Cofer. But you mentioned January and July were getting quite hot and heavy for CCS and inserting teams and being compromised. Could you expand a little bit? Was it not only HQ, but do y'all think y'all had some guys on the compound that were maybe being a little sketchy as well?
I don't think we had too much of that on the compound. We were pretty tight. We we're pretty tight. I think the issue was that there were some leaks downtown that was going on. But what was going on when I talk about being pretty hot and heavy? Nixon was the president then, right? And understand that the NBA were coming down from North Vietnam through Laos and through South Vietnam, what they call the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And that wasn't just one road like an interstate. It was a series of trails that got you down there. And they were end up down there in the Fish Hook and area where Mad Dog was killed. Okay, there was what they Cosman. It was I don't know what that stands for, but basically it was North Vietnamese headquarters for South Vietnam operations, right?
Exactly.
And we knew they were doing that stuff, and there was a lot of political pussyfooting going around with Cambodia. We had some regime changes from Prince Sihanouk to Lon Nol, which was a general, and they overthrew Sihanouk, and then Khmer Rouge under Pol Pot came in. So a lot of stuff going on, and Sihanouk had set some operating rules. He said the only way you can come into Cambodia would be you can just have like 2 teams in at a time into Cambodia, and we're not going to let you have any fast movers, which were jets, fixed wing stuff. You can have a couple insert choppers, maybe one for command and control, and then have a bird dog overhead. And we didn't have artillery. We didn't have much in the way of communication. Just Nixon says we're finding all. See, I've been told this, that within 8 hours of one of our missions, that it was on the president's desk. Okay, so they were keeping real close touch with what was going on from SOG, not just CCS, right? The whole command and control network. But Nixon said, well, this is ridiculous. We need to get in there and get them. So, I don't know, the last week in April, and we didn't know this was coming, see, but it got hot and heavy because they really wanted to know exactly what's there, how much, where, what units, the whole bit. And the missions were flying left and right, especially in April and in May, right? And because about May 1st, I don't know the exact date, Nixon said it's okay to take the conventional units into Cambodia, but he put a limit on it. We could only go in there, I think, 20 kilometers. Well, I just told you that they had the leaks, right? So basically what those guys did, they just backed up 20 kilometers, right, and kind of waited till we left again. But there was a lot of the teams. Well, there were two launch. I operated mainly out of Quan Loy, which we call the southern launch site, and that was I don't know who had that base. I think the 101st was there. It's a big base, and we just had one little corner of the area, just one corner of the area. But we'd fly from there. Maybe we'd launch from Quan Loy, or maybe we'd go to another A camp and launch from that A camp. But we'd get in from we're getting shot out. Nobody's spending any time on the ground because it was just real active. And we'd come in, debrief, get the mission to go the next day, and it was just one after the other. Pretty busy. So anyway, that's what I meant when I said it got pretty hot and heavy.
And it's easy to see why things can get so hot and heavy, because most people don't know the restrictions you guys face at CCS, not having the SPADs or the fast movers or even artillery if you were close enough to the border. I mean, CCN had everything that the Army could get in a fixed wing aircraft to them, and here y'all are not putting anything down, but all y'all had were the Green Hornets and the Thunder Chickens, and they did a damn good job rocking and rolling. But not having SPADs and all of that had to be some hard work on the ground.
Yeah, they're just different, you know. We had some advantages. Maybe terrain was an advantage of CCS compared to what the guys up north had. They had some unbelievable terrain issues, and then they had weather issues that might sock them, and they couldn't get in to help them. Even if you had the SPAD, maybe you couldn't get them in there. The terrain is a dead burn bad, you know. But anyway, so I'm going to say something too here. You know, we're losing some guys, and I remember one that really got me was Everett Kofer was killed, I think, the 3rd of April in '70, and that's when we had his memorial service, I guess. You know, it's just like you see in the movies. They stab a M16 in the ground, put his boots out front, and put a bray on top, and then a chaplain flies in and says a few verses and then flies back to the next job, you know. And I spent some time with today's that's Everett right there. That's his memorial service, and that's our latrine in the background, by the way. But anyway, today's Army, man, I so appreciative. The chaplains are actually embedded. Those guys live, jump, eat, everything. They're one of the guys, and it just is it's a really important aspect that we just didn't have in Vietnam. There's a lot of guys kind of lost as to how to deal with some of that stuff. So, all right.
I think I've got a picture here of Mr. Kofer that not many people have ever seen. That's Mr. Kofer right there, the Montagnard villages.
Yep. I think I got that same. I got a front view of that picture, and some of those I sent you earlier. But Everett was just a one heck of a guy, just a good guy. I remember I got assigned the job of cleaning his locker out. You know, you got to go through and sterilize everything you send home before you send it home. You know, and one of the things, I don't know if it happened all the time, but there was a little bit of cash that Everett had, and we took some of that cash and put it on the bar, right? And that's what he would have wanted us to do, was buy around for everybody.
Man, what a guy! Yeah, I've read, and Jason did a good job of covering the mission and some of the memorials in there, as well as Colonel Lindsay. Guys, if you want to learn about CCS, this is literally unless you talk to a vet, this is the greatest thing that you can get from Colonel Lindsay, their CO. Uh, and is it time wise? I may have messed things up going a little bit beforehand, but would you want to talk about you being able to finally get the go ahead to go down to 1-0 school and actually participate in 1-0 school?
So Nixon gave us the approval to take regular Army units in there and kick some fanny, right? Well, there wasn't much fanny kicking going on as there could have been because they moved outside, but they captured a lot of the cache sites, and that's some of the info we gave them, right? And we had a role in help brief them where to go, what's where, kind of a thing. But I think about the first week in July they cut that off, and I don't have the exact dates, but they said, okay, we're done inside Cambodia. Well, by now, the communists had actually taken over. This is the Khmer Rouge and the Pol Pot, I believe, at the timing's right about that. But we weren't allowed to have Americans in Cambodia anymore, right? So CCS, that was our AO. So CCN and CCC needed some teams, and they took probably about 8 or 10 teams up to CCC and I don't know, maybe about the same amount, maybe a little less to CCN, and that's when we sent some guys like Baby Son Davison, right? Madison Stroline, Dale Dinky,
Bill DC.
Yeah, Bill DC, and some of those guys never come home, right?
Leon.
But Leon Sonnenberg, Ray Hill. Ray was my one. He was my 1-1, my radio man at RT Auger, and he was a heck of a warrior. He really was a good guy, and he passed away here a year or so ago too. But anyway, yeah, a bunch of them either went there or I got assigned to go down as training officer at Long Thanh, and lo and behold, when I get there, who was I replacing but Gary Robb, right? And we took down there to 1-0 school, Chip Chapin, Roy Eckroat, Leon come down there. I'm not sure exactly when Leon came down there, but he was there for a while. Frank Opal, and we use them as they were instructors, and then what I'm going to call lane graders, because there's Roy. I used to be able to know the names of all them guys. Those are instructors down there at RT school, 1-0 school. We had about, I don't know. When I got there, and here was this guy up against the Recon station, because we had an airborne school down there, right? And there was this guy up against the wall, and he was swinging nunchucks like you wouldn't believe. That guy was unbelievable. And I said, "Who is that guy?" And they said, "That's Doug Miller." Okay, and Doug ended up getting the Medal of Honor. And what the story, as I remember it, is you can read about his mission, and he wrote a heck of a book called Reflection of a Warrior, right? But Doug was down there, and the reason he was down there is because up at CCN, he kept trying to go back out in the field, and he'd been there. I think he'd been there 3 or 4 tours, and anyway, they had to get him out of CCN so he wouldn't go back out in the field again and wait on what happened with the Medal of Honor. But he needed a break. He ended up getting the Medal of Honor and Command Sergeant Major, and he just has the highest respect for those guys that knew him as Command Sergeant Major. I was interested. I went to a memorial dedication for Eldon Bargewell, who was up there with Doug Miller, and and I met Ken Bowray, and who's been a lieutenant up north, and then a guy that's currently the G3 at USASOG, Scott White, and really got to be pretty good buddies with him. And they said, "Well, where are you living now?" And I told them, and they said, "Well, come over here. We're going to introduce you to Danielle." So I go over there to get introduced to Danielle, and it's Doug's daughter, and she lives about a mile from me. Can you believe that?
That is small world.
Yeah,
Gosh.
yeah. And but anyway, and she has control of his Medal of Honor stuff, and she put it in a museum, military museum. It's up there at Centralia area in Washington. Anyway, I got off on that story. Sorry about it.
Oh no, it's fine, sir. That's what we're here to hear.
So 1-0 school, we had about a dozen instructors. We had we had 3-week school, and we ran pretty much everybody that ran Recon. We took them through there, not just team leaders, but pretty much everybody. And at the end of that 3-week school, at the last week, we actually had a live fire. I call it live fire because you were really in combat. You were in War Zone D. That's a team I went to the field with. We don't have my lane grader in that picture, but this is when I went through. This would have been January of '70. On the top left up there is Roy Eckroat. English is a guy next to him. I don't remember his. I think I want to say Bill, but I'm not sure. And then a guy named Ruiz is next to him. These are all CCS guys. Me, and then down below, I think that guy's name is oh gosh darn, I can't remember. It's like Berg, I think. And then Lee Birkins is in the middle with a headscarf, and Lee's written a couple books, and he's a MMA guy. And then Birkins, I guess. Yeah, it's Lee Birkins. And yeah, I forget the guy carrying M79 on the end there. But that was our team that went to War Zone D. And we had actually some KIAs in some of those activities, but they ran them just exactly like the same missions we did in Cambodia. Best thing about the 1-0 school is we probably had the best chow hall of anybody in the SF. It was unbelievable. They give you every day a fresh sheet with things you order. You order off the sheet, and they deliver your plate to you, right? They ran a airborne school down there. I didn't realize this until later, but you know, in early '69, that Colonel Roll, they put a pair of concrete boots on a double agent and gave him a little hole in the head, I think, but because he was a double agent, in Westmoreland, I'm sorry, Abrams decided he was going to charge him with murder, and he put, I don't know, 3 or 4 of those guys in prison, and there was some more that were kind of semi-involved, and we kind of hid them out there at Long Thanh.
Wow.
And I didn't know that till later. Okay, even though I was down there, a lot of times there'd be special missions they were going to do, and we were the area they could come practice. We had a pretty big open area between us and Ben Het. And we'd jump out there. And this is so I don't know which team this is, but they're going to we made 4 or 5 combat jumps. They did a halo jump. Gary Robb and Bob Ramsey developed a system that they did some low altitude jumps, and they were jumping 400-foot elevation and less, right? And so you don't even have time to activate a
reserve. I mean, they didn't. I don't even think they carried a reserve, to be honest with you.
They didn't, from what I understand. But so Gary and Bob, as I understand it, came up with the idea, and they come down there to Long Thanh and did some practice with it. I wasn't involved specifically with it, but I knew they were down there because when Gary come down there, like I said, I replaced him. He checked in. Hey, how are things going? You know, and I had a few questions for him. But someday, if you get Bob Ramsey on, he can tell you about that. And they actually used it. They went in North Vietnam with the article I read. I talked to you about that before. Where's that article that Bob wrote? Is it in a book that you or Jason put together?
Pucker Factor, yes, sir. It's in Pucker Factor episode 2.
Yeah, he did a good job on that write-up.
He did. He absolutely.
So towards the end of my time down there at Long Thanh, which would have been like September of 70, we got orders to start developing a training plan in logistics to train 7,500 Montagnard or Cambodians, right? And it had to do with what was going on over there in Cambodia. Well, I never have put all these pieces together, but when I started hearing, see, we weren't allowed to talk about anything for 25 years, so you didn't have any contact with anybody and then your memory starts fading. But when I started reading about Cliff Newman and Ken Bowray and what they've been doing with Fank, and then old Billy Waugh had a book. He had a lot to do with a book called
Surprise, Kill,
Vanish. And I started reading that. Well, that whole Fank thing started with the MACV blocking action that went on there. Anyway, I think I know that the training plan that we were putting together was part of that Fank program. And I don't remember how many battalions or whatnot they had in the Fank program, but the idea was to kind of take over what the U.S. was doing, I think, because they knew Vietnamization wasn't working as well as it could or should, right?
Absolutely.
So it'd be good someday to maybe get Ken Bowray and because my memory here. Anyway, get the Fank guys together and maybe come up with some history about how all that worked.
We might actually be getting, we had Leon on, and I'm going to try and get him to come back to just talk about Fank, but I actually managed to get in touch with Ken Bowray, and I think we might actually get him to sit down with us. There's Leon right there after SOG with his troopers at Vong Tau. He's about to send them back over to start fighting, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, there was some, I had a lot of fun. The other one was up there with that Bargewell thing was Dick Thompson. And man, he's got some good stories too. Yeah, those guys, those are some legends. I walked with them, but I didn't do anything. I was trailing along like a fly on the wall, you know. But anyway.
And I mean, CCS had guys like that too. I mean, y'all. The Jerrys, the Sonny Franks, the Cecil Carls.
Carla, yeah, you got Sonny Franks. Sonny was on that Medal of Honor mission, not mission, but one where James Fleming from the Air Force pilot, Randy Harrison was on. I mean, there were some number of silver pistols which were awarded. I think the guys with like 35 missions or something. I'm not sure if that was a cutoff, what that was, but they just incredible people.
Oh yes. RJ was one of the men awarded a silver pistol.
Bob Bechtel was. Yeah.
Sonny, Cecil. There's a list in Colonel Lindsay's book too of all. Baby Son. I don't think he was alive to get his, but no, he was. There's a photo of him.
He was. Yeah. I've seen a picture of him getting it. Yeah. That's I think Colonel Shungle then come down. Yeah.
That's right. Yes, sir. So we've covered a bit here of CCS or of 1-0 school.
I'm gonna tell you one more thing about 1-0 school.
Oh yes, please.
When I was in my earlier days of training, like I say, this butter bar stuff, right? And I show up one morning for airborne training, and I told you I'd been kind of wild, right? But it was like this started the next morning after we graduated from OCS, and a few of us went out and kind of hung one on, right? And I showed up for airborne training. It's dark. It's like 3:30 in the morning, and we're all lined up in. And they got a few officers scattered through the platoon, and I'm not looking good. I mean, I am not looking good. And all of a sudden, here comes this, I think, guy named Brockelman, Ron Brockelman, I think. And he was in my face, and he was telling me what a sorry guy I was. And he was going to wash me out. And man, he gave me every crap detail you can imagine. I was doing push-ups, pull-ups, and he was really riding me hard. But I made it, right? I made it. And so then my last time down there in Long Thanh, all of a sudden in my little office here come walking this guy, and I look up, I go, Brockelman. And he goes, yes, sir. And I said, do I know you? He said, no, sir. I said, that's a lie. Give me your file. But he said, I had to put you to the test. We can't send some lieutenant over to Vietnam, right? That isn't going to take care of his troops. So, yeah, I appreciate it. We became good friends. Good friends. But
Is this Mr. Brockelman right here on the left?
I don't know about that. There's a no. That could be. It could. I don't think so.
Okay, I was trying to see if I could find a photo of him.
I have to see a front on. He's a good guy. He was a good guy.
I've heard he was quite good in the woods as well as being a good guy.
He was.
So as after you finish 1-0 school and get back and you're running recon and have your own team, and I believe you mentioned Mr. Ray Hill, and I believe he was another one of the guys that went to Pontoon, maybe.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
South Carolina.
Yeah, Billy Waugh. I don't know why this is. I was gone by the time they took those teams up there. I was down at Long Thanh, but what I've seen in the records is that Billy Waugh took most of Auger up to CCN, right? And Ray Hill ended up at CCC, and he was with North Carolina, I guess.
South Carolina, yes,
South Carolina, and but I think he had a yard team. The yards loved Ray Hill. The yards loved him. But I don't know how many missions he ran up there, but I think and I think he extended for a bit. Yeah.
Okay. He was there. He was at CCC for a while because the man I know on the last combat Halo jump actually did his first strap hanging missions with Mr. Ray in South Carolina. So he was there for a while.
Yeah, he was a good man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I got a picture. Some of my pictures, we had a rappel tower at CCS.
Oh gosh.
And Ray was coming down. You guys need to know. Our packs weighed 70 to 80 pounds, just the pack, right? And then our web gear and whatever we were carrying probably added another 20 pounds. We might be carrying 100 pounds, literally. I'm not kidding you. And but we practice over and over and over again rappelling. And there's one of those pictures in that group that I'd sent you a year or so ago. Has got a guy upside down, and that was Ray. He's coming down, and he's with full gear, and our rappel outfit was just a Swiss, what we call a Swiss seat. It was a rope that you tied in, then you put a D-ring on there. But Ray was coming down, and his fatigue jacket got mixed up in the rope, and it wouldn't allow him to slide down. Yeah, that's Ray coming right there, and I think it's going to show him upside down in one of those. There's a guy. Yeah, let me look here.
Look, ma, no
That's
hands.
what that was one of the snake bite instructors that was there to help us out. But anyway, he got upside down, and
There you are.
they had to go up there and get him out.
Oh, there
He
he
is right
is.
there. Yeah. So he's
Oh,
because it froze in time, right? And so he can't go up, can't go down,
dang.
and once he let go of the rope, he's butt heavy, and so yeah, he flipped upside down. But we got a big laugh out of that one.
Holy cow. Oh, yep, there it goes. There's the process. He is.
Yeah, I think this guy, that guy starting to climb up there, that was, I think that's Eddie Gleason. I think that's right. I think that's Eddie Gleason, and yeah.
Dang,
John,
Eddie Gleason, another famed
yeah,
CCS man.
yeah, he got a little famous sometimes for the wrong reason, but there's Johnny K. Berry, there's Pop Taylor, there's I think that's DeCarlo there.
Is this the Quan Loy site with these rubber trees?
No. This man me to it.
Oh.
Ben Lyons has got his head down over Johnny K.'s Berry. Yeah.
Wow. God, what a photo.
Yeah.
I'm ever more appreciative of you sharing your photo albums with me. I mean, geez Louise. Yeah. I've just got to get to IDing everybody. That's now my only issue.
We had, there was, Troy Gilly had about 6 of us show up at his house one time. He lived in Arlington. Maybe still lives. He does still live there. Mm-hmm. Troy was my best. He was my best SOG friend. And but anyway, there was myself. There was RJ. There was Ben Lyons, and Ben had been, of course, he had been crippled by then. And Kenny Courage. I don't know, it was about 6 of us, and the Vietnam Helicopter Association was having a reunion, and this in 2000, I guess, and we busted their reunion. We went in there, and we found the 195th and the 20th SOS hospitality rooms. Right, we couldn't get a glass empty. I mean, they had those glasses full. We had a really great time. And anyway, we went back to Troy's house, and I showed the photos that you got there. But back in that day, they were just slides, right? And I remember Troy said, "Mike, those aren't your photos." He said, "Those have to be part of the history, right? Those have to be part of the history." And that's why I've put it out there and shared it. They're not my photos. And in fact, technically I'm not in them because I didn't take the photo with any I'd be in, right? But anyway, Ernie Aker probably had the most ability on computers, and we started putting together Colonel Lindsay's book. Ernie and I took on the job of getting everything. We took the job of getting all the photos cataloged. Well, I can't do anything other than just try to get people into the circus tent. And Ernie put that whole thing together, and I think he shared that. That site. It's not a public site.
No.
It's very, very guarded, right? But,
yeah.
That's the way we trust you, and we trust Jason, both Jasons. So, all right.
Huge. I can't thank. You're actually the reason I got that. By putting in a good. I mean, me and Mr. Ernie were on good terms, but you setting that up, I am eternally grateful for that. I mean, eternally grateful. Okay. We covered not only participating in 1-0 school, but some of your work at 1-0 school. Did you go? You did go back down south after your training officer stint, or were you done after your training officer?
Actually, Long Thanh is actually south of Bamituit, but I went back to Bamituit. I had to check out, and by that time, all those teams had gone up to CCC and CCN. It was just a different place, and of course, then you find out so-and-so didn't make it, right? So-and-so got wounded, went back home. So the change was just, oh, man, talk about depressing, it really was depressing. But so I just checked out and then went down in the Trang, which was 5th Group, because that was our cover. That was our cover, right? And we went back down in the Trang and shipped out. I flew out of Cambron Bay back home, and then they had me on orders to go back and start that recon school at Fort Bragg, and in the meantime, I decided I wasn't going to stay in. Like I say, it was just too depressing seeing everything shutting down, and I decided I was going to go back to school. So I reported in to General Flanagan, and he said, "Well, we got you going to start school here, and you'll get a chance to do this before he could get his oath." I said, "Sir, I decided I'm going to get out." I only had like 3 months, and so in behind him in his office, he had a big manning board, and it had all the units there. And this is back at Bragg, and he said, "Well, what am I going to do with you now? Where do you want to go?" And I looked up, and Ben Cap was I forget. I'm embarrassed. I don't remember what group it was. I think it was 7th Group. But he said, "Well," I said, "How about Ben Cap?" He says, "You know Ben Cap?" And I said, "Yeah, he was flying. He was down at launch site officer down at Long Thanh. In fact, he was up in the air when Mad Dog and that whole issue went around, right?"
Yes.
Anyway, so I went down to Ben Cap, and he said, "Well, I got something going on right now." He says, "I want you to go down to PX. You've been to PX yet?" He said, "Go down there and get whatever you need, and then come back up and we'll talk." So I go down there to the PX, and I got, you got the fatigues with the side pocket on the hip, and my beret was in there, and I'm walking around getting a toothbrush and whatever you're going to need. And I get up to the cash register, and there's this Army captain in his dress greens with, he didn't have anything but a good conduct medal, no nothing. And he's making everybody salute him as he walks out the door. And so I get my stuff and I walk out, and I stop right in front of him. And this isn't good to tell, but I reached in, put my beret on, and he thought I was saluting him, so he whips up a salute to me, and I walked off. And he chased me down, hollered, "No, you salute your." Anyway, I gave him an attitude response and got in my car and drove off. Well, this wasn't the smartest thing to do. It's got your little tag on the bumper, your number. I went back up and saw Ben Cap, and I said, "I think I'm in trouble." And he said, "What happened?" And I told him. He says, "Oh, Ash, So anyway, the next morning he called me in and he said, "Stand at attention." He says, "You're getting a rear end chew." And I said, "Yes, sir." Then he said, "All right, now get out of here." He says, but anyway, I didn't get a rear end chew, and I got one of those things about you need to work on your attitude, right? So that was my part of my PS post-traumatic stress syndrome, right? Anyway, I shouldn't even have told that story.
Oh no, it's fine, sir. It's fine. These and Mr. Ben Cap, yeah, I have recently started learning a lot about his name with the Jerry Shriver issue and him down at the launch site. I think Mr. Jim Day actually worked under him at the launch site down south. Maybe it's at north.
I bet Jim did, because I think Jim was there before me. Yeah.
I think they called him the Dancing Bear, maybe. If I'm not mistaken. I'll get into that with Sir Jim. He had a few funny stories on Major Cap. Wow. So man, what an illustrious experience. I mean, all the men you were serving with, and then I always find it interesting. Besides all the missions you did and the training at 1-0 school. But the interesting thing to me is you being on the forefront, or what looks like to be the forefront of your of FANC, and setting that initial programming stages up. I think that's really, really cool.
Well, and I don't know the whole history of that, so it'd be nice to put that together sometime. I just, yeah.
Absolutely. We have 2 questions. One of them I was we were talking about the other day about the suppressed weapon. Could you tell the viewers a little bit about this famous photo of you with down here at Long Thanh?
Yeah, we had quite an armory. We had about every weapon in the world at our disposal, and this one showed up down there at Long Thanh for us to try out. And it looks like what is it, an M2 carbine? Looks like it had a collapsible stock, you know, little basically metal rods that fold up, and it had a suppressor on it, a scope, and it was 9mm, and it was you know, a bolt action, right? It was kind of a cool thing, but what are you going to use a sniper rifle and a 9mm? That doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. And if, you know, 9mm doesn't shoot much beyond open sights range, really, in my experience. And then in combat, you're not really looking for a, you know, a bolt action kind of a weapon. But I think this Sonics company had made 10 of them as experimental deals, and I think our feedback was that this wasn't really realistic for too much. Maybe, you know, POW prisoner snap stuff where you're up close, but then you wouldn't really need a scope for up close stuff. But I kind of joked later on that about the best thing it'd be good for would be shooting the monkeys or giving away your position up in the trees, you know. But yeah, that's it. And we had everything. We had Swedish Ks, we had the Uzis, we had the British Sten. I mean, we had everything you can imagine. AKs. Yeah, it was kind of fun to use those. But my personal philosophy is you better know the weapon you got. You gotta know it. You gotta be able to get it in the dark, know how to do everything with it in the dark, and it's got to be like second nature to you. So me switching around weapons didn't make a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's a distinct, you know, recognition of what's being shot when you're out there in the jungle. You can tell an AK or a car, and sometimes if some of the team leaders wanted to have AKs so that you sounded like them, right? My point man always had an AK, but most of the missions I was on, the guys were carrying cars. Frank Hopa was a little bit different. He liked that Thompson. The other thing is carrying magazines. If you got a British Sten or an Uzi, they got great big long 9mm mags, and for me that was kind of awkward. What I did was I loaded up a World War II BAR belt. It had 3 pouches on each side. You get three mags in each one, so you got 18 mags right there. And we didn't load the 20, we loaded 19, but you roughly got 380 rounds right there, and yeah, that's a BAR belt. And then you got your pack. You have some in your pack. So most guys were running close to 500 rounds. That's what you're carrying. Seriously. And well, sometimes you got to figure how much water I take versus how much ammo, and I'd rather have ammo and drink dirty water. You know.
If you're in the proverbial up Shit's Creek, it's better to have ammo, and you can hopefully find water down the road a bit or down the trail a bit, but you can't find any more ammo for the CAR-15 laying in Cambodia.
Yeah.
And an interesting thing, I think you also said, and the website said that this is probably the only known photo of it actually in the wild, in the field, shall we say, not in the field, but out and about.
Yeah. So, and I don't know, somebody may have taken it to the field, but I don't know anybody that did, right? if they made 10 of them, they probably had a couple of them at Bragg, right? Probably there was a couple down there at Long Thanh, and he might have shipped one. Like I say, each of the CNCs had its own armory that was unbelievable. I mean, anything you want in there, they get it. Yeah.
And I think, yep, we're coming up on an hour and a half, which is perfect. And one of our story things we were putting together, I believe you mentioned you were the lucky guy that was pawned off and began taking care of Mad Dog's monkey.
Yeah. So when I showed up at Recon area, and they gave me a hooch. You know, it's basically I don't know what it is, 8x10 pieces of plywood. You know, it's plywood, single plywood walls, right? And somebody had Schreiber's monkey. You know, Schreiber had a monkey, and he had that Klaus was his. There's Bob Bechtel with that monkey, and Bechtel might have been the guy that gave me that. They pawned that. Somebody want to get rid of that stupid monkey, and the name doesn't come to. Anyway, I bet it was Bechtel. Now that I saw that picture, so I show up and they go, "Well, give him to the new guy," you know. And that stupid monkey was a pain in the rear end. He'd bite you. He'd steal your stuff. He'd crap on your bed. I mean, it was anyway. There's Klaus right there. But yeah, so Bechtel, and we don't have Bechtel, the Baron, with us anymore. But that's who gave me that dang monkey. So I had it for a while till the next new guy showed up, right?
The Baron. God, I wish he was all of the guys I wish, but Mr. Bob, I've heard he was a outstanding, good man, funny, and just a hell of a recon man. He just sounds like he was a cool customer, man. That's pawning the new guy off with Jerry's monkey. I've heard some wild stories about that monkey, and Jim, I think, is going to tell us a little bit of stories about him trying to teach him how to defend himself from the dogs in the camp, which is going to be wild. Did you have anything else that you would like to close out with?
What I did, I've had people say, "Hey, what would be some study material for SOG?" And I got and what it was like in the Army. I got a few. I'll tell you, books by John Plaster, John Stryker Meyer, Dick Thompson, really good, all of them. Doug Miller, Reflections of a Warrior. Lynn Black has got some really good ones. Of course, Bud has waved that one that Fred Lindsay did, and it's a different kind of a book than the others. That actually covers some of the missions, the day and who was on there, each of the mission. Jason Collins, he got a pucker factor, and he's been doing one on the 20th SOS. Really good books. Jason Hardy's. Jason did one for a bunch of the teams. He's done one for SOG knives. And you guys, you know the SOG knife, right?
Oh, good Lord. Look at that bad boy there.
And anyway, those really have my heart and soul. And the other one I was lucky enough. I got out, I was wandering around, and through God's good grace, I was introduced to, was assistant S2 at 5th Group, for working for Iron Mike Healy, and that's Stu Weber. And Stu wrote a book called Tender Warrior that is given to so many soldiers. It's a really good men's Christian book. He also wrote a book with Jerry Boykin, and I've become friends with Jerry too, called The Warrior Soul. And you've heard of Jerry Boykin, I'm sure. Gary Bikert, I got a chance to meet Gary twice, and he was Medal of Honor recipient. He was at Doc Sing. He was a SF A-team guy at Doc Sing, and you got to read that. I mean, that, I forget the name of his book, but it is outstanding, as well as Legend. That's
Roy Benavides.
I mean, we have got some guys that are just world class. warriors, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I encourage you that those are some of the books I got on mine, and I continue to read all of them, and I thank God for my opportunity to be home and pass some of this information on. So again, Bud, I want like I say, I thank you. We trust you, and you've earned that trust. So thanks so much.
That means all everything in the world having you guys trust, and I can't thank you for coming on before you've got to leave and take care of business. It means it's an honor to have you on here to share with us and share CCS history, because Lord knows, like you said, it needs to be passed on, and we are definitely eager to hear and learn about you guys. So again, I can't thank you enough.
Well, you're going to next week hear from Troy Gilly and Jim Day, and I'm gonna prompt a couple questions you guys ought to be asking. Ask Troy about when he taught Steve Sparling how to throw a grenade. That's the one you got to know, and then the other one that probably Jim or Troy tell you about the Colonel's goat, right? Billy Goat.
We were just speaking about Billy, and he sent me a photo of Billy that I've got ready for next week. So I hope you'll be able to maybe watch or with us live, or at least watch it on down the line and see what you think about it.
Well, I hope this went well for you guys. Hope you learned a few things.
We did. It means more than you know, and I can't thank you enough again. And I hope you have a safe trip, and I look forward to touching base with you when you get back.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir. Have a good day.